Hello, and welcome to the Bovis and Outdoor Chronicles. My name's Jared.
And my name's Garrett.
We're two brothers who love the outdoors and spend most of our time and all of our money on our adventures.
From working all week
to playing all weekend,
we find ourselves
surviving the week to live on the weekend. What do we got going on, Garrett?
Today, we have a lot going on. First off, this is the last episode of season 2.
The last episode
of season 2. Also known as just the last episode of season 2.
The last episode of season 2.
So, our listeners want to know, is there going to be a season 3?
Yep, there's going to be a season 3.
Okay. And expect a lot more from us out of season 3. Some more in the field kind of footage and whatnot.
Yep.
Just trying to streamline our process a little bit and provide our subscribers and listeners with a little more, like, you hear our adventures, but now you're going to be getting a little more content during our adventures.
Also, check in. We're going to be launching a line of review videos on some of the stuff we use, so you'll be able to look at that and, you know, kind of see what we do. There's some things that won't make it on there, some of our trade secrets, but for the common stuff we're going to talk about and the stuff we really enjoy and some of our items will be on there. So.
Yeah, and I'm excited. Like, season 2's over, but I'm just excited to get going on season 3.
Well, and we're just hitting April, so we're going to be bear season, turkey spring season. It'll be fishing, camping season. There's a lot going on. So season 3 is not too far away. We'll probably take a month or two off, get some footage of the spring bear hunts and turkey hunts and hit it hard again. So Yep, pretty excited.
Should be good. So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, the first thing I think we need to talk about is who has paid for this video, and it's our sponsor.
Bovis and Outdoors.
Bovis and Outdoors. No, but serious, if you watch our videos and you want to plug some of your product here, we're really looking for unique, kind of small company gear that can be used in the backcountry on hunts or fishing, camping, any outdoors things. So if you do, reach out to us, let us know, and we'll plug you in that spot. But for now, Bovison's paying for it. So
want to get into what we're talking about directly today?
Yes, I will say this is probably the most research I've done in a while.
Ladies and gentlemen, he can read.
Yeah, it's a lot of big words and pictures, so hopefully I can sound my way through it.
Maybe some coloring options in there too?
No, I didn't want to get distracted.
No.
So what we're going to go through today, and we thought about it a lot, but one thing that's on our mind heavy is this legislative session. And there's a good handful of bills, I didn't count how many we're going to try to talk about today, that are going through the legislature right now. Some of them in our list have now died. Good or bad. Some of the good ones died, some of the bad ones died. But there's a handful left that we'd like to talk about and I'll kind of get into today and see, you know, what we think about it.
What's what? And that's the thing. Montana's changing. We've talked about it before. A fast way it's going to change is with these sessions. And if you're not paying attention, there's some stuff that can be passed that's not going to help the state of Montana.
And you're exactly right.
Yeah. And then there's also, on that flip side, more positive note, there are bills out there that increase the, I would say, the vitality of outdoors in Montana.
Yes. And that's kind of what we want to bring light to in this season finale, if you will. You know, we already did kind of a looking back, aiming forward episode, kind of when our year had ended as far as outdoors.
Climax is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, we were kind of done hunting. Everything was closed. It's kind of, we hit this relaxation mode. I usually put on 10 to 15 pounds, right? And we kind of looked back through the year of all the cool shit that, you know, we were
able to do.
And so we didn't want to do that again for this episode. So we decided to talk about these bills. And really, this is, I keep looking into space here. There's no camera there. Really, this is for you guys to get the word out on some of these bills. I, just like you a few years ago, it really didn't occur to me that this kind of stuff was in the legislature. I just was, you know, kind of oblivious to it.
Head in the clouds, went and bought your tags and went out in the woods.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody today about it, and they actually said, you know, I don't have time. And that's exactly right. You don't want to have to be fighting for your hunting rights or your public access rights.
You just want to go do it.
I just want to go, but your day to day, you don't have time to follow all these bills. I mean, it was a lot of work just researching the ones we're going to talk about tonight, let alone have to be on it all the time. So hopefully this episode will be something you can click on, watch, learn some stuff about some of the bills that are going through, some of the bills that got killed, and just kind of the mindset of these legislators that are pushing these different bills through, and the lobbying groups that back them.
Yeah.
You know, who's backing what, and what also is very important is to keep track of which representatives we have voted in that are pushing these narratives, that are pushing maybe some more of these negative bills that we think, at least. So maybe when their name's on the ballot next time, you can go, hey, I remember that this person A and person X put a bunch of stuff on there that was very bad for the public hunter. And that's what we are. Montana born, braised. Braised is that
born and raised, braised.
Well, yeah, there.
Hashtag trademark.
Yeah, I trademarked that. Braised in Montana.
Braised in Montana. That's making me hungry, and I just ate.
Yeah. So, would we like to kick it off now?
Yep. Let's kick it off. Which is the first bill we're going to be talking about?
Well, I have here House Bill 676, and basically this is selling isolated state lands and revising the water rights. HB 676 for you guys. I'll read a short summary and then, we can kind of
fill it in.
So basically, it's a sweeping proposal that aims to sell off isolated parcels of Montana state trust land to adjacent landowners while also overhauling water rights administration. Basically, what that means is the bill will direct the state land board to put potentially 1.5 million acres of scattered state lands up for sale to ranchers and other leasees who currently lease them. So it's not even like it's going to the open market. They're just going to sell them to the people with the leases on them now. And I don't know how that works. Like if you have to be bordering it to have a lease on it, I don't know. I don't know why someone would have a landlocked piece of state land and lease it from the state if, but it would also shut down the Montana Water Court by 2031, which I think that's supposed to go away by 2041. I think it closes at 10 years earlier or something. Don't quote me on that though. I did a lot of reading on it. But anyways, it's going to transfer its duties elsewhere at that time. As of today, it has passed the Montana House and is working through the Senate. It's still in progress rather than fully enacted. So we're still kind of working it through what do you think about it?
Well, of course, we have to talk about the corner crossing in Wyoming.
Yes.
That happened. And it doesn't apply directly to Montana, but it definitely sets precedents.
Yep.
If it were to go to court in the state of Montana. So it's kind of convenient that it's like, we're almost close to getting corner-to-corner access, and then here's this, we're just going to sell the corner-to-corner
There's
access.
A lot of these bills that are in here that I don't think would need to be written or money wasted on or time wasted on if you got corner-to-corner crossing. Corner-to-corner crossing would be solve, this is just a rough guess, Rain Man, probably like 80% of these issues because there's so much landlocked land that you could access corner-to-corner.
Right.
And really, what is corner to corner? I know we've already covered that, but I just feel like there's not a good enough defense to keep it, illegal or consider it trespassing compared to all the good it would do.
Right.
There's the negative side isn't, I don't think any property rights are getting lost. I really don't, but we'll go on with Bill 676, which is not corner crossing. It's about selling off state lands. I think the biggest fear in Montana is losing public lands, even the ones you can't access.
That's the biggest fear everywhere, right?
Otherwise, because you turn into some of the states that are back east, or you turn into like Colorado, where you can't just go along the riverbed and wade and fish the river. No, that's somebody's property. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, Wyoming's even that way where, at least you can float a boat down, but if you touch the bottom of the river, you're trespassing. That's to me, that's ridiculous as well. But there's many other states like that. What makes Montana special is the fact that we are so pro public lands, which is very interesting. I actually have a theory on this.
All right.
And we're starting it out early. getting into the weeds. But there's a lot of bills here that were proposed by Republicans in the state. And historically, it seemed like Montana voted conservative on the national level, but locally, we kind of voted Democratic. And a lot of that had to do with Democrat policies. But I think the Democrats on a national scale really put a bad taste in a lot of Montana's hearts about Democrats here. And the fact that Democrats here kind of supported the bullshit that was going on nationally, I think it really diminished their impact.
Kind of lost that middle ground.
They did.
The conservative Democrat kind of disappeared, and I think you see that reflected with the amount of Republicans that were elected in Montana.
Well, now you have Republicans that, it's kind of a conservative value, money, and they're trying to sell off lands or close down lands. It's all these bills are really profit driven, right? They're not for the good of the people. They're for the good of the few, is what I would say. Just like the selling off lands. All right. They claim that it'd be good for the state, but if you were an investor, all right, and you sell an asset, what you should do with that money is invest it in another asset. The problem I have is there's no bigger other asset than the public lands. Are you going to sell these public lands and buy public lands somewhere else? Like, you already have them. And once you sell them, you've lost them. And
right.
What brings people to Montana are those public lands for, I don't even think you could calculate. It's a very weird figure because just them existing brings.
But not necessarily these public lands, because these are landlocked.
I don't know. I think these public lands also harbor animals and wildlife, game animals, and
yeah, but wouldn't if it was private land, wouldn't it also harbor game animals?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
my big thing is there's always going to be more money, but there's never going to be more land.
Agreed.
And you said that this land is an asset. Right now, it costs money to maintain these lands.
Yes, but and no, because they're getting leases from it.
But in the scale of things,
I have the number here.
Yeah, read the numbers.
I think the state trust land generates $5 to $7 million annually for the state.
Good chunk of change.
That's a good chunk of change.
Is that how much does it cost to maintain?
Well, the state isn't really maintaining them. It's not like they're putting roads in. There's no access. The state's getting paid for people to put their cattle on,
which is bottom market dollar.
Yeah. Yeah,
right.
They're not getting a premium for it, but it's still, and it also funds our schools.
Right.
So I'll kind of go through what the supporters say of this 676, and we can talk about that. And I'll do supporters and opponents, and then we can kind of do how we think it'll affect the outdoors if it passes, if it doesn't pass. Keep in mind, this one's still in progress, so it's kind of
still breathing.
Yeah, this needs to die, in my opinion. But supporters of it, including its sponsor, Brandon Lear, House District 13, Glendive, Ritchie, and the Savage area, kind of up in...
Okay.
I call it Eastern Central.
Yeah.
It's not quite north because it doesn't quite touch city.
The High Line.
It's like Glendive. No,
yeah.
The High Line's...
No, it's below the High Line.
Yeah, it's below the High Line. It's like mid-eastern area. But he argues it's about private property rights and efficiency. Again, I feel like that kind of translates to the greed of a few people.
Right.
But they say the many land leases have long-standing improvements like irrigation systems on these state land tracts and should have a chance to own them outright. They also contend that the bill would protect water users from state overreach. And they're framing it like the state. It's funny because he works for the state, but they're framing it like the state will come and take their water. If they develop water, it's the state's water type of thing, which makes sense. It's just like if you renovate your apartment you're renting, you don't get to keep the renovation, right? But they should get a deal for it. Yeah, but that's not what this bill's about. Okay. And I don't know I don't know the details on what you do if you improve the irrigation on some state land or water on the state land, if you get a break on your lease or whatnot. Seems like that would be fair, but
Yeah.
Conversation for another time. They frame it as the government is stealing the private water rights that are used on state leased land. Ranchers testified that they fear using water on leased pasture now after a 2024 Montana Supreme Court decision confirmed the state's partial ownership of such water rights for the benefit of public schools. By selling the land to the leasees, supporters say ranches could invest in water infrastructure without uncertainty, and the state would simply simplify its land portfolio.
Okay, there's uncertainty in everything, right?
Yep.
There's a certainty in absolutely nothing. Second off,
there's certainty in being uncertain.
Yeah, there you go. Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Available at bovusonoutdoors.com. The idea that you're going to sell this to the leasees also just makes me enraged, because it's not even like the open market.
Yeah.
So you're basically going to get pennies on the dollar selling this asset, which we know is an asset, for what reason other than it'll give the state a quick paycheck that's pennies on the dollars for what that land's actually worth.
And then it will be gone.
Right.
It's a one-time payment.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get that perspective of how this bill is still alive. I understand those lands aren't accessible to the public right now, but who knows what it'll be like
5
in the
years.
future.
Oh yeah,
And
2 years maybe.
There's always
1
going to be
year.
more people. There's always going to be more money.
We need a brave
Never gonna
soul
be
to
more
corner
land.
across and get caught and take it to federal court.
Yeah.
That's what needs to
And the
happen.
courts to rule in that favor.
Yeah.
With the Wyoming case, they were pinned corners. Versus Montana, there's a lot of corners that aren't necessarily pinned.
What do you mean by that?
Like geological surveyed. In the Wyoming case, they're geologically surveyed. Here's a pin, here's a pin. In Montana, there's a lot of corners that don't have that. So it's a little bit grayer, but who knows what the court precedents.
Well, if you're going to try it, make sure you do it out of pin. All right. Kind of go over the opponents. It's a bunch of what we were talking about. So I'll hit it quick, but it's a fire sale of state treasure that jeopardizes Montana's outdoor heritage. It's a remarkably broad coalition from Montana Wildlife Federation, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, and Stock Growers Association, and public school advocates that are like, hey, this is a raw deal for the public land access in Montana, which makes sense. I mean, anyone with a common sense brain that hunts Montana should be voting this down. It should scare you that it passed the House.
Right.
It should put a flag up and go, I have representatives in the House that are not voting for me. They're listening to their friends, who probably lease state land sections and not the public.
Yeah, it's real convenient for the one guy that owns the land, but everyone else, you get screwed.
You get screwed. So really, if you were to take a tally of Montana, do you think the public as a majority wants their public lands gone?
Hell no.
No.
Hell to the no.
Money talks. The only thing we can do is talk louder in numbers. So, but yeah, a little bit more stuff. I mentioned it. It's going to cut off future access. We talked about it. I think this corner crossing thing is going to turn into something. It's not going to fizzle out. These western states have to do something. And it's such a clean solution to, like I said, 80% of these land problems. And currently those state land trust areas generate 5 to 7 million annually. So
it's not digging a hole in the taxpayer. So it's like,
not.
Why get
is
the
this even
fire
a
sale?
discussion?
Yeah,
exactly.
Why did this pass the House?
So this is the water part, which I don't quite understand totally on it. But one of the critics is the lieutenant governor speaking for the land board, insists that the state never actually steals private rights. It only holds an interest in water on state lands as required by the state constitution's trust mandate. In their view, closing the water court decades early, that's where I got it, decades. So maybe it's not 41 or whatever I said, it's a few decades, would throw decades-long water adjudication efforts into chaos. In short, opponents fear losing public lands, school funds, and water oversights all in one bill. Which makes sense. Like, if you have water on state land, the state should have a hand in what that water's used for, because it's the public.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, I think this is a no-go one, guys. HB 676. Call your local senator. In fact, call the sponsor, Brandon Lear. Leave messages, email his office, let him know that this is not good and should be shot down. Watch this video. Get out on your keyboards, your phones, and my vote on this one.
Thumbs down.
Thumbs down. You good with that one?
I'm good with that one.
All right. Next one.
Rolling on the next. What do we got next?
HJ, house joint.
House joint.
No.
Jesus.
Sorry. We're not PG rated. House Joint Resolution 24 or HJ24. I'm doing a lot of talking. I'm getting hoarse.
Yeah, all the house joints that you've been talking about.
I feel like you got to keep this kind of punchy. Otherwise, it's
it's dry.
I fell asleep reading all this shit.
All right.
You know,
Let's
I
keep
sacrificed for you guys.
Look at you.
All right. HJ24. Do you want to read it or you want me to take it?
You got it.
All right. HJ24 is not a law at all, but a message bill, a resolution that declares support for Utah's attempt to wrest control of federal public lands. In kind of normal language, it's going to ask the Montana's legislator to back Utah's legal theory that the U.S. government long-term ownership of vast public lands is unconstitutional. Utah's been pursuing a landmark lawsuit, I'm sure you've seen it in the news, that claims about 18 million acres of federal land should belong to the state, and HJ24 would have put Montana on record siding with that effort. As of early April 2025, I don't remember what day it was, but it's dead. It failed in the House floor by a 34-66 vote. Oh, on April 1st. So it was the 1st of April.
Well, thank gosh, right?
Well, here's what's surprising. It's a Republican-controlled House, and it got voted down. So it sends a very good signal that there was some bipartisan
agreement.
Yeah, to get this away.
Like, I agree. I don't like a large federal government. You can quote me on that. But even tie this back to the bill you were just talking about, how they're going to sell state lands and it's damn near passing. And then this wants to get federal lands to state power that could transfer hands. No, the fact is we, as outdoorsmen, as conservationists, we need to protect our public lands. And that means letting the government have control of them. So I don't like the federal government, but the fact that they're holding land, I like that.
Because I feel like the state land is at such risk.
Right.
Just for that bill right there. Now, can you imagine we back Utah, they get it through, Montana's like, hey, we backed them, we're going to do the same thing. All this federal land gets sold back to the states, right? Or given back to the states for the states to deal with. Well, the state's like, holy shit, we don't have enough funding to control these millions of acres. So what's the first thing? There'll be a bill by some legislator that'll be like, Montana can't afford these public lands. We need to sell them to private landowners. And it's like, there's some guys playing chess here and there's some guys playing checkers. And this was good. Thumbs up here that this got
shot down.
Killed. Not bad bill.
Murdered.
Good that it got murdered. That it failed. So I don't know how much. I got a little bit on it. Do we want to talk about it more?
I mean, it's dead.
It's dead.
But it's something we want to watch out for, right? I mean,
yeah. So I guess I could put a little bit of we want to watch out for it, but basically this one was they think there's about 8 million acres of undeveloped federal land that they could well, the proponents for it. We didn't talk about that. Why would you want it? The thought is that the state would take the land, they would be able to develop it, log it, get resources off it, which the federal government can do now and they get the profit.
At a slower pace, probably.
At a slower pace. There wasn't a single person for this bill, really. It was shot. Well, there was. It was 34-66. But no one from the public is what I should say when they did spoke in favor of it. So, like, everybody that came in, even the landowners were like, nah. Surprising. But a lot of it says Montana's getting screwed on it. We get $4.7 billion in federal funds because of those lands the feds manage for us. So they pay the state $4.7 billion.
Oh, dang. So
it's not like they have these lands and Montana's getting robbed. It's not a net zero. Right. So there's money coming. And that's why I think it's dead. It's like, hey, look, we want to get rid of this. We want to get rid of these federal lands, turn them to state so the state can control them and rake in all this money. But the first thing the state would do is go, we don't even have the infrastructure to manage this much land.
Yeah.
We're going to write a bill just like the one I threw on the floor that's like, let's sell it to the leasees.
Yeah.
Let's sell it. Let's turn Montana into fucking Kansas where you either own land or you don't hunt. Like,
Yeah.
fuck. All right.
Is that the state motto for Kansas? Own land or don't hunt?
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
Throw it on the ground.
All right, next one. You want to read this summary?
Nope. I think you were going to do all the reading.
All right, you might have to go get me some more water. House Bill
Refreshing.
763. This is a good one. I really like this one. Thumbs up, guys. We need to get this pushed through, and I think it is. I'll have to read on a little more.
It's still alive.
It is still live. So HB 763, opening access via access corridors, block management reform. I'll read the summary. You know what it is, but
yep.
It's a feel-good piece of legislation for hunters and public land advocates. Simply put, HB 763 aims to make it easier for hunters to reach landlocked public lands by compensating willing private landowners. Now, here's something I'd like to say. This is a fix, but it's a costly fix because it's going to pay landowners to let people cross their property. Now, if you allowed corner-to-corner crossing in conjunction with this, it would significantly drop the bill for the state to the landowners, and then the chunks of land that you can't get to by corner crossing, you could
focus
this on,
landowner.
and you could probably pay him more.
Right.
Right?
I think it's definitely a
step in the right direction.
The answer is always a multifaceted answer.
Yes.
But this is definitely a step in the right direction. I even talked previously on an episode that I did come across block management that you signed in to use their access road, and it's like, this is great.
Yeah. Yep. Just to access the public.
Yep. Let's get behind this.
So it'll compensate landowners. Montana has made millions of acres of public land, state and federal. There's no legal access because they're surrounded. That's what landlocked means, right? The bill strengthens the existing block management program, which is good because, as we know from previous episodes, it's declining. And it encourages landowners to allow walk-in access corridors. So a place where you can cross their land. So it's not randomly. It's just a nice place, whether it's a road or a place you have to walk in only. Who knows? People will do it.
Right.
Right. And it sailed through the legislature with overwhelming bipartisan support. It passed the House 92-7. So I don't see it getting hung up in the Senate, or it's expected to do well. As of today, it's in progress. It's passed one chamber in the Senate. It's awaiting final approval. So we're good there. Basically, this would cut the red tape for landowners who say, sure, hunters can walk across my ranch, but I don't want them to hunt it. But it also leaves room for if you're like, I don't care if you hunt my place and behind me, it's still the same thing. So this is just for the ones that don't want hunters on their land, but they're
willing to provide access.
They're willing to provide access.
Which is huge, because there goes the state land that you're trying to sell.
Mm-hmm. And under the bill, the landowner could get a flat annual fee of up to $25,000. And I didn't dig into the exact details of like what that constitutes.
Might break down to like 100 days.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Exactly. And it also tweaks the block management program, which traditionally pays landowners who let the public hunt on their property. Now they could get paid just for allowing access to the public land, but it also simplifies this process, right? So you remember now we got to fill all that stuff out. It's kind of paperwork heavy. So it requires hunters to sign in each day and landowners to track hunter use. Well, this is going to direct FWP to implement simplified rules. All right. And basically it makes the agreements more attractive, less paperwork, less complication to get paid.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid. So why wouldn't you? All right. Supporters for this, again, it was 92-7 in the House. So pretty much everybody supported it.
That feels good.
Yeah. They said it was a win-win solution, access for private property rights, or for public access and private property rights.
It's a willing program.
Yeah. I mean, how
offers an incentive.
Yep. It's all willing. That's what's
not
great
the government
about it.
mandating.
And can you guess how many acres are landlocked in Montana? That at least popped up here.
I can't. It's going to be a lot.
Yes.
I don't want to make a fool of myself. I'm not good with numbers.
All right, 3 million acres of landlocked public land in the state of Montana. 3 million acres. You got guys that have like 20-acre food plots, and that's like, it's 3 million fucking acres of landlocked. What that number would be if you allowed corner crossing, I bet it would be maybe 500,000 acres, maybe 1 million
Drop
acres.
significantly.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think this is a good thing overall. Let's see if I missed anything. I don't see anything that we didn't touch on, so I think that's pretty good for it. I do think there's some people that talk, about. Well, I can go in the opponents because we covered the pros, right? So the opponents of it, there really wasn't, right? 97 or 92-7, really not too many people didn't like it. The few skeptics that didn't like it were worried about the cap of $25,000. They're like, the state's going to run out of money. But there's a lot of funding for this conservation access and public access. So 97 or 92-7.
Yeah, and it'd be different if all the landlocked was suddenly opened.
Yes.
I mean, that idea is unrealistic, right? You're going to have a few landowners participate. Then if they like it, they'll spread the word, then a few more. But the whole idea that this passes and all of a sudden every landlocked section's open now and the state can't pay for it, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. And then other people said it was kind of a pay-to-play thing. And I have to disagree with that. I don't think it's a pay-to-play thing. There's apps out there right now that are pay-to-play.
Right.
It's like, hunt my ranch, pay me a trespass fee. Right? Where this is more on the public.
Right.
Dime, if that makes sense. So it still is pay-to-play, but it's not like who's ever rich. It's just like if you pay taxes or you buy license or you donate to the block management program, like that money's going to keep this stuff open.
Hunting is already becoming a pay-to-play sport. And this just makes the state more competitive to allow more public access.
Agreed. It kind of fights against the individual pay-to-play.
Yep.
They talk about how it's a slippery slope for paid access, even where corner crossing might be legalized as a free solution. And that's what I was talking about. I don't think you can be an opponent to this bill because when corner crossing legalizes in this state, it's not like this bill is going away. There's still situations where this works, but a lot of the corner crossing will just be more public access. This bill doesn't hurt it or take away from it at all. So I'm pretty happy with it. You have any takes on it? I'm doing a lot of the talking. Next one you should read.
No, I don't read.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's what we need. We talked in the previous episode when I did all that research on the block management program, how that needs to be beefed up. And this is one way to do it.
Yeah.
I think it's the way that the world's going to have to be in Montana now, right? There's going to have to be more public programs to allow more hunter access.
Well, and that's what I think is going to keep Montana. We talked about it with Mia, right? It was like coming to a state near you.
Yeah.
You have this influx of people that move here and they want to change it to their state. And when it comes to public lands and trying to privatize them and privatize the animals and everything, it comes down to greed. It really does. And what sucks is hunting, fishing, the outdoors, that's not supposed to be something you have to pay to do. That's almost like a God-given right. I think it's in the Montana Constitution that, the right to hunt is in there. Right. And so as we see the state changing, we really need to educate the new people coming here and the ones growing up here that there's a reason that everybody wanted to flock here. Now, why are we trying to change it?
Right.
Hey, there's some things we can tweak. This is a good tweak. This is a good one.
Yeah.
But there's a stinker down there on the floor selling all the state land that it should have been killed in the house.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. So I'll stop talking now. I'll let you talk for a bit. I'm getting winded.
I'm kind of excited to see this bill and the fact that it's had so support because, as we discussed previously, that block management program is declining. So seeing a bill that's really driving forward, yes, this is how we're going to do it. And then you said it's kind of people that want to privatize state land and wildlife. it's all about greed. To me, it's all about fuck those guys, because how low can you be in life that's what you want, that you want to take a commodity that could be enjoyed by everyone and lock it down for your personal enjoyment? I mean, how fucked is that?
Well, I think I do it on a small scale. Like, I don't want strangers coming in my yard, but the scale at which it
takes place matters.
I've got 10 acres. That's a lie. I got 2.5 acres. But
on Tinder, I'm 6 foot.
Yeah. All right. But you have 64,000 acres, 1,000 acres, and I try to cross corner to corner on your 65,000 acres, and that is just mind-boggling to you. That's like, holy shit, how could you do that? That's costing me so much money.
That's fuck off.
That's just greed. And that's where it's at. So, House Bill 763.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Good job, guys. Next one.
Next on the block is
SJ Senate Joint Resolution 14, releasing wilderness study areas. This is a very interesting one. I want to get your take on it, because I read it and I'm like, ooh, I think there's some things Garrett and I are going to butt heads on here, which is a rarity. Yeah. Is it a blue moon out? The sun's not down yet. All right.
Thank gosh for longer days. Well,
go on.
Are you done?
Yeah, I was going to read the summary unless you want to do it.
Go ahead, read the summary, then I'll jump in.
Okay. So SJ 14 dove straight into one of Montana's longest running public land debates. And this happens every year. They try to do something about this and it doesn't get done. It's the fate of the WSAs, Wilderness Study Areas. These WSAs are federal lands that were identified in the 1970s to be evaluated for potential wilderness designation. And for people that don't know, wilderness designation is like no bikes, no nothing. It's pretty much horses or foot. There's no technology in there, no motors, and even normal pedal bikes. You can't have anything with mechanical advantage.
What about the new Kawasaki horse bike?
Oh, I was wondering if you're going to pick that up. I think that would be so rough to ride. Like, that would just beat the crap out of you. But I'm interested in it. Here's the thing, though. They're going to have lobbyists. They're going to have horse people out. There's going to be a bunch of shit, and that'll all get locked down. It'll be like, you can only use those on...
Well, it was like e-bikes were
roads.
Good because they were a gray area, and then they ruled them as you can only use them as on motorized trails.
So why the fuck have an e-bike?
I think there's like a year that you could have lived life to the fullest.
So we'll see. Maybe we should get a horse for the year, electric horse, before they go out. But anyways, back to Senate Joint 14. They're evaluating these potential wilderness areas, and it was designated in the 1970s. And Congress gets to decide their status, but they're in limbo. They haven't decided since the 70s, which is what, 55 years ago?
That's insane, because to me, it's still the year 2000, and everything's with the base of 10, right?
Yeah. So right now, because they're in limbo, they're treated as wilderness areas. So there's limits. You can't have motorized use in them. And it's been, like I said, 55 years of this crap. So this SJ-14 is urging Congress to remove protections and release many of these areas to multiple use management. So basically what that's saying is, hey, DC, stop dragging your feet, open up these lands so we can use them. We can log them, we can graze them, we can mine them, we can run off-road vehicles in them. That would be sweet for us, open a bunch of four-wheeler trails up. As of April, I think early April, I don't have the date here, damn it, it failed. So this one is off the table, but I did want to talk about it, okay, because we just had one that opened up block management. It was positive. We had one that's selling state lands, which is a negative. Now, what about this wilderness area? Because they're not necessarily selling them.
They're just opening it up.
They're opening it up. What do you think about it?
I almost like the BLM's approach, where their land is managed for multi-use, where people are encouraged to the land. And it's a hard balancing act that they have to do, but they do a pretty good job at managing that. These wilderness areas, I like the idea of that it's like untouched, but as far as like people enjoyment, you're not going to have many people being able to access that land and enjoy it to its fullest.
And I think that's something we in Montana know what public land is and how big it can be. But other people that aren't used to these big, large tracts of lands don't understand like how you can have a wilderness area. Where we shot my goat, wilderness area.
Right.
And it was miles back in there. We went in on horses. Like it's a huge process, huge expense to be able to access it. Now, should there be some places like that? Yes, I agree there should be. Should all of these wilderness study areas be designated as that? I don't think so.
Let's look at it a deeper dive. I mean, with the influx of population in this state, we're going to have to find creative solutions to disperse people, right?
Yep.
And one way would be to reduce the number of wildlife management areas. Still keep them because I think they're important. There's a lot you can learn from them. But the idea that there's this land that you can't even like ride a bike in, like, come on, what is a bicycle? A little bell disrupt some kind of owl?
A nesting field mouse.
Yeah. I don't know. So what did you think I disagree on?
Well, we'll kind of go through it. Well, are you for it or against it?
I'm for it.
I would have shot it down.
Really?
Yeah. And we'll get into it. I'll kind of go through some of the supporter. This is just kind of a list of why people were for it. Same kind of thing we talked about in the summary. It's actually about 663,000 acres that are locked up in this stuff. And basically, think about all the timber there that's stacking up and not getting burned. And that's something all these tree-hugging hippies love to say. Well, I'm one in some things, and other things I feel like I disagree with them, right?
You're a bit of a reconnaissance man?
Renaissance man. Try that again. Renaissance
man.
Reconnaissance man. So, these wilderness areas are great in theory, but again, this goes back to us talking about national parks and like Yellowstone, everything. Everything now is not wild. So you have a wild wilderness study area. It's not really wilderness. It's not like it can kind of be close, but what happens in the wild to a forest that overgrows and trees stack on trees, stack on trees, stack on trees, stack on trees?
Burns.
It burns. That's nature's way of cleaning things up.
Right.
And all the animals that could live in that dense forest now are killed or they have to move. Well, there's no place for them to move. All right? Because now there's a city sitting where they could have moved. Because where they're living now is gone. So we have to manage these areas in some extent. Fire management is a huge one. You want to keep nice, healthy forests, it's got to be logged in a nice, healthy way. Not just clear cut. And we've learned that. We've seen what happens when you clear cut forests. It's bad. So, but the science that it comes to forestry, these areas are, in my opinion, ticking time bombs. So that's one of the support for it. Remember I said I was against the bill. So kind of, you see, there's like, I like a lot of it, but there's one big thing I didn't like, and we'll get to that in a bit, why I would have shot it down. But basically the people that are for it, we talked about multiple use management. We have all this land that only the people who like to ultralight backpack can fucking get in there.
Right.
That's kind of bullshit. I should be able to ride the 4-wheeler trail. And if you want to backpack hike past that, go for it. But I should be able to enjoy some of it, do something in there. And then, that's a lot of it.
So why do you oppose it?
The biggest thing why I oppose, well, a lot of people oppose it because it was like, let me see real quick. So it's the largest ever rollback of federal land protections in Montana. It's not just 663 WSA acres, but according to some counts, up to 7 million acres.
How is that?
When including inventoried roadless areas mentioned in the resolution. Because the resolution mentions these areas that have no roads in them. So like we could develop roads, and we can go into that later because the Forest Service is a fucking joke with roads. I have a whole spiel, a whole nother hour to talk about how ridiculous road use has become. But right here is what I don't like about it. Oh, first, these are all the organizations that were against it. Wild Montana, formerly Montana Wilderness Association. Imagine that. Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Imagine that. Trout Unlimited, Montana Conservation Voters, and others. So there was a lot of these groups that we align with, I would say like 85% of the time on things, that were against this bill.
Mm-hmm.
I was against it because it was like a fix-all type of thing. You mentioned it in the beginning. You're like, oh, we should look at it. There might be areas that should stay, might be areas that don't. This is a blank slate, all or none type of approach where it should be, there should be something where, hey, let's look at one each individually. Maybe let's plan it out for the next 5 to 10 years, right? I don't know how many there are. And go, okay, let's look at Wilderness Area A. Let's do a couple of studies in there. Why, what, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we could put
what are the requirements if we were to open this? What are the requirements to keep it closed? Not a blanket statement that says
open all of them. Exactly. So that's why I was against it. But it doesn't matter because it did die.
It died.
It died. So a good one to keep on your mind that's on the tip, and then this is a problem that should get solved, but this SJ did not solve it. So call in, write us, do whatever you'd like. Leave us a good comment on maybe what you think should be happening with these wilderness areas in Montana.
Yep. Always interested on what you have to say.
On to the next. Damn, we're shooting through these pretty good.
Rolling.
You might have to read this one. You can read that one.
Rolling.
It's big letters. Sound it out.
Hunter Orange requirement repeal.
I thought this was an odd one. That's why I threw it in.
House Bill 347.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like it took in the requirement that hunters wear hunter orange for safety. It would have eliminated the mandatory hunter orange clothing requirement during big game seasons.
Yeah, it would have taken hunter's orange away from big game season. What do you think about that?
What do you think about that?
I was indifferent. I was like, I don't care. Like, I really don't care about hunter's orange. The only thing that I don't like about hunter's orange is like when I'm hunting antelope in fucking September with my bow and I'm...
Well, you don't have to wear it with your bow.
Oh, you're right. Well, throw that one up there. No. No, I just... When it's hot out, wearing my orange, it's just like another layer. And it's a minor inconvenience. It just seems like, God dang, it's so freaking hot out.
Yeah, why do I gotta wear this?
Why do I gotta wait this?
And you have a nice orange vest.
I do.
Out of wool. I got like the polyester plastic one that like it doesn't breathe. Like all my other high dollar hunting clothes breathe well. Orange is like a
holds it in.
Dang near a trash bag, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I see that's convenient. But what was it? Looks like the thought was it that they don't want the government mandating.
It was kind of a libertarian point of view. It's like, hey, I should be able to hunt however I want. I shouldn't have to wear something required.
Yeah, I don't know. I've met a lot of dumb people.
If I had to pick, I probably would oppose it. It's scientific fact that deer can't see oranges or elk can't see oranges. Like, you might look a little brighter or a little whiter, a little, less black, a little more gray in their vision with it. So I don't think it helps. And as far as it being a point like, hey, you shouldn't be able to tell me what to do, I think it's more of a safety factor, not maybe for us, because I think we're pretty safe, but there's some fucking retards out there,
Yeah.
Like, and we've experienced them.
Yeah.
Like we've been shot at, not maybe specifically at
purposely,
us,
but yeah.
And it's like, holy shit, dude. And if I was in all camo, someone could.
Right. And you even see that with like turkey season.
Yeah.
How many people get shot during turkey season? It's like one of the most dangerous things. That's because you're not wearing orange. You're sounding like a turkey.
Mm-hmm.
But you're using a shotgun or a bow. Now let's change that to a rifle where people are shooting 1,500 yards.
Yeah. Some of those guys ranging out with their turrets. Oh, I'm going to get this and shoot some
which is a whole nother
fucker.
discussion. But yeah, I don't like the government telling me what to do, but I think in this case, the government should tell you
the
to wear
hunter's orange.
Yep.
Well, it didn't pass. When did it die? It says at the bottom here.
It died at a 20-0 vote.
No one voted for it.
Well,
even the guy who sponsored it didn't go for it.
I don't know. Some lobbyist got me. Yeah. It doesn't say when it died.
It doesn't?
But it died.
Oh.
It just says failed.
April? Oh. Well, I need to do better with my research. All right. Toss that one.
Throw it on the ground.
On the ground.
So I threw it on the ground.
Okay.
Happy birthday to the ground. All right, too much. Otherwise, we'll get flagged.
All right.
Copyright infringement.
Senate Bill. Love you, Lonely Island. Senate Bill 270. Antlerless elk licenses and elk overpopulation strategy.
270.
Can you tell me what this one's about?
Yeah.
Or should I read the summary
I think everyone should have up to 4 tags. Okay, you go ahead and read the summary.
Because that made no sense to anybody.
Okay.
About what this is about.
Go ahead, read the summary.
All right. Senate Bill 270, SB 270.
270.
It's a significant piece of wildlife legislation focused on Montana's elk management, particularly the goal of harvesting more antlerless elk cows in areas where elk populations are over objective. Basically, they're like, hey, we know there's an overpopulation of elk in Montana.
Mm-hmm.
How do we solve it? This is one solution, which we'll get into in a second. And I don't like this solution. I'm telling you right now, I don't like it. I'm not pretending to be, impartial?
Yeah.
What is
biased?
What is CNN supposed to be?
The Fair News Network.
The Fair News. This is 100% my opinion. I don't like this bill. So it would allow hunters, especially non-resident hunters, to buy more than one cow elk tag in certain situations and adjust license structure to facilitate that. So historically, most hunters are limited to 1 elk per year. This bill proposes to and that's not quite true. Like you can get B permits and B tags. So most hunters are not limited to 1 elk tag per year as far as residents go. Maybe non-residents are 1 elk tag per year, but residents can get a few. Yep. But it proposes to let holders of some non-resident combination license purchase additional antlerless tags and even deer tags beyond the single animal limit. It also sets a price for the new, they call it Class B12 non-resident antlerless elk license at $270 each, which I think could be $500 each, to be honest with you. People would pay.
People still pay.
Yep. This empowers the FW. Well, then it gets hairy there because the more expensive you make it, the more pay to play it is, and then all of a sudden it's just rich fuckers come to the state.
That's true.
So I feel bad for the little guy, but I also feel like stay the fuck out of my state. I'm overcrowded. We'll get to that later. It empowers the FWP Commission. Number one thing right there, empowers the FWP Commission. I don't like them having much power to decide. I just don't.
They have a lot of power. They said a lot.
They do have a lot of power. It seems like some of the stuff they do is not based on much research or much facts. It's based on like what their friends want them to vote like. But anyways, the FWP Commission gets to decide which hunting districts get these extra tags and how many to issue. SB 270 cruised through the Senate with bipartisan support 47-2. So this fucker's going to pass.
Oof.
Yeah. And as of April 8th, or today, it's awaiting a committee vote. So it's in progress, but it's pretty much like it's going to make it.
So currently, residents can purchase multiple class antlerless B elk license with specific limits set by the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Commission. Mm-hmm. So this changes it, right? It actually gives the number of 4. That's why I said 4 earlier. Residents can obtain up to 4 Class A9. So it sets a number. So right now it's set in gray area, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this actually says you can have 4. It dictates 4, up to 4.
Okay. So maybe that's not too bad.
Specific, yeah. Yeah.
Not the whole bill, but that aspect of it.
Right.
But I would, honest to God, I would like less non-resident hunters and more resident hunters.
Less non-resident, more resident
hunters.
I
would like...
Yeah. You'd like to see Bill from work rather than Larry from Minnesota.
Yes, and if that means giving residents 6 to 8 cow tags, I don't give a shit. but you do lose out on the non-resident revenue.
And then talking about the current law allows non-residents holding Class B10 big game combinations may purchase up to 2 Class B non-resident license. So that's the current law that they can.
So they can get 2 now.
Up to 2. This proposal maintains that same thing, but just makes the license fee at $270. So I don't know if that's an increase or decrease.
So
I'm
it's
assuming
maybe
it's
not.
increase.
It's increasing. Well, yeah, increasing the price, but it's not increasing the number of tags.
Correct. For
Okay.
non-resident landowners, it's actually excuse me, not landowners. Residents, it's
by 2.
actually increasing to 4.
All right. So basically, it was Senator Delaney Lodge. He's like Mullen to Lolo, House District 45.
Lolo. Cool.
And mainly the ranching and outfitting community who are really up in arms about the unchecked elk. Can you imagine why?
Yeah.
Right? Big paycheck.
Yeah.
Let's make a bill that puts a bunch more non-resident hunters on the land. But with you're saying, it doesn't sound like it does it. From the research I did, it sounds like it puts more on because it's opening it up.
It increases the number of residents tag.
Yeah, but this is saying it increases non-resident tags. But I'll read through it. In parts, Montana elk numbers exceed the objectives, especially in areas where landowners tightly control hunting access. Whoa, man!
Yeah,
what a fucking thought!
Who
right?
would have thought
Who
that?
would have freaking thought that?
I think
My
what I'm going to
God.
write my paper on.
Yeah. So supporters argue that the current hunting opportunities haven't been able to knock down those numbers. Why? You could allow people on. You know where there's not bad elk problems?
Public land.
Yeah. By allowing hunters, particularly non-residents, who have the time and willingness to travel for extra hunting, which is fucking ridiculous, to take multiple cow elk in the hope to reduce those herds, is more effective. Essentially, if one hunter can fill 2 or 3 cow tags instead of just 1, you need fewer total hunters to harvest the same number of elk. This could be a way to boost annual elk harvest without dramatically increasing hunter density everywhere. Additionally, supporters highlight that non-resident hunters are underutilized resource for population control. I don't agree with that at all. They are fucking utilized fine and dandy.
Fully utilized.
But here's what I see happening, and this is what the Fish and Game Commission, if you will, FWP did to the mule deer in Montana. They fucked our mule deer.
They
hardcore.
Decimated them.
And what did they do? They had landowners bitching about too many deer on their property, crop damage, so they let out a bunch of non-resident tags because non-residents are underutilized. And all these non-residents showed up, and the landowners said, no, you're not going to pay me to hunt on my ranch. You don't get to hunt here. So where did all these non-residents shoot shit?
Could I take answer A, public land?
Public fucking land. So there you go. Yes, it might say it will decrease the number of crowding because you have one hunter with more tags, but the fact of the matter is it's going to give people more tags on the public land, and then it's going to be harder for you to get a deer or an elk. Well, it's both. It's elk and deer.
Big game combo.
Mm-hmm. So at $270 a pop, wow! I don't give a fuck. How about that? Put that in your pipe and
Smoke it. Take that to the bank.
Science-based response to overpopulation. You know what they should have? A science-based response to saying, you have 64,000 acres on your ranch and an elk population you're not allowing us to manage with the hunters, with the tools we have.
Get fucked.
Yeah. Gonna get some hate for that one. Bring it on.
Come on, keyboard warriors. Let's hear it.
I get it for trying to manage the elk. You're like, hey, let's let more tags where there's more elk. Totally makes sense to me. But don't phrase it as it's this great fucking thing to let a bunch of non-resident hunters in. Let a bunch of residents in, and let's say they go, we need to get 120 elk out of here. All right, and residents buy up 100 of those tags. Whatever's left over, open it up the next week for non-residents to buy. Right?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
In my mind, there's a huge disconnect with my views and then kind of the resident to non-resident balance.
Yes.
Like in my mind, everything should be catered to the people that actually live here
I
and
agree.
pay taxes here
I agree.
versus the non-residents that come in. And I appreciate their money and our incomes in small communities.
We should tariff them. That's what we should do.
Tariff. Wall.
Get it done. All right. So, opponents of it. Shall we go into that?
Yep.
We're kind of opponents. We've been picking apart the support for it the whole time. Basically, it benefits outfitters and wealthy non-residents at the expense of the average resident hunters and public wildlife. I mean, that's what we were saying, right?
Yep.
It's just like, pay us money and we will get you to hunt
For
here.
elk.
Yeah,
Yep.
but it basically, what I think they're not realizing, they're like capturing this. Well, these wealthy non-resident hunters are going to come in and pay us outfitters and us landowners to be on their land. What about the droves of guys that come to this state because they watched a do-it-yourself hunt on fucking YouTube?
Yeah.
They're not paying no outfitter. They're not paying no fucking rancher to be on his place. They're just doing it where we doing it, and now it's crowded, and now they're shooting.
We doing it. I like it.
Make it a shirt.
Yeah. T-shirt idea.
Yeah, so it just, I am upset that it's going to make it through, but this is going to make it through. It's going to further incentivize landowners to monetize elk hunting, and we talked about that more. All right, so you got a guy, he's got a lot of cow elk. These out-of-staters have a lot of money, and they go, hey, could we pay you a lease every year? I got 6 buddies, lock your place down, we can shoot cow elk. Why not?
Yep.
And then it's just slowly slips into that. That
money.
It is money. And what's the purpose of government? Okay, I think it needs to protect its people. It needs to protect its resources, right? And that's about it. I don't think the government should have its hand in anything else. I think that's very, very libertarian, very basic of me.
But you think the government should tell you to wear orange?
No.
That's not what you said.
I'm not for changing the bill. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But like, I wouldn't be upset if it passed. It wouldn't be like, ugh.
Yeah.
I think it's not a good idea, but it's not like
doesn't hurt you to your core.
No, it's kind of like there's a law in Montana you have to wear your seatbelt.
Right.
Now, I wouldn't say I'm going to vote against taking that law away, but I probably wouldn't have voted to initiate it in the first place.
And like drinking and driving, that should still be legal too, right? This is Montana.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of back.
Montana was found in Germany.
Germany was discovered in Montana.
That's what it is.
Let's bring back the reasonable speed too. Get rid of the 80 speed limit.
Yeah.
Reasonable.
Yeah. I'm flat in eastern Montana on a sunny day. How come I can't push 160?
I don't think either of our vehicles would go up to 160.
They would fall apart.
Yeah, I think they fall apart. They start shaking real bad about 90.
Mm-hmm. Some other things that have been talked about against this one is overharvest. So imagine that. What happened to the fucking mule deer. Right?
If only we had a case study that showed exactly what happens when we release
the non-residents on a population, right? Just fucking decimate them for the next 20 years. And I don't trust FWP enough to be able to get their shit together to manage it correctly. They're going to fuck up, and it's not a little fuck up. When you do that, it takes decades to get those herds back.
Yeah.
You know? So, and the other thing is Montana's already increased non-resident opportunities. In 2021, they gave outfitters more guaranteed non-resident tags, and residents have been unhappy about it. Yep. From a resident hunter's perspective, why are we letting non-residents who already get 10% of our limited entry permits and thousands of tags have even more? Exactly. Right. Why the fuck is this all about non-resident shit? How come we're not just... shouldn't we give residents those tags? It's pretty much, what we said before. So, and then the last part about it, we preach this all the time. It's not the number of tags you let, it's the access.
Right.
You got 64,000 acres that you don't let anybody on except the few that are dumb enough to pay you.
Yeah.
You're going to have a problem. So, anything else you'd like to say on SB 270?
Nope.
Thumbs down. It's going to pass, probably. thumbs fucking down. Call your senator. Call your representative. Well, call your representative. It's through the Senate already. Yeah, it's in the House. So call them. Let them know that this is a bad one for anybody who likes to hunt public land in Montana and lives here. If you live from Kansas or who are the places we hate? Washington, Minnesota.
Why are you picking on Kansas?
I don't know. Maybe where's your friend from that we interviewed? What's his name again?
Jesse.
Jesse. Wasn't he from Kansas? That's why it keeps popping in my head.
No.
Because of him talking about it. Missouri. All right. No, it's all these other fucks from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Washington. The worst thing to see is Washington plates. So you can
unless
go
you're from
yourself.
Washington and you listen to this podcast, in which case we value as a listener.
Yeah. Don't want to alienate anybody. All right, next one. Ooh, do you want to do this one? Why don't you read that one? Sound it out.
Reclassifying wolves as fur bearers. So House Bill 101 dealt with wolf management in Montana. It was to reclassify gray wolves as fur bearers rather than the current designation as species in need of management. Species in need of management.
Yeah, think about it. Even the regs are a separate wolf regulation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Save the trees, dude.
Yeah.
Rope them into fur bearers. So what exactly did this do?
I think it didn't do enough either way, and so it got... I think it died. Did it die?
It died.
Yeah. What
stalled out on the House floor?
Do we know when? It's pretty recent. I think most of this stuff was early April.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think, and we'll get into this more, I think this bill didn't do enough good or enough bad to get support from either side, and it just kind of piddled out. That's what I think.
Have you read through this? I haven't read
Yes.
this one.
Okay.
Maybe you'll do better at... Because I don't really see what it's doing that's so controversial. Why?
Well, people, I mean, it's the wolves.
It's the
Can't
wolf,
touch
yeah.
the wolves.
Hashtag
All right.
direwolf.
So there's some things that are good, some things that are bad. I'll kind of go through it. So this bill requested Montana Fish, Wildlife Parks propose to reclassify the gray wolves as fur bearers rather than their current designation as species in need of management, a category somewhat akin to big game. It also bundled a variety of other wildlife law updates, such as clarifying definitions like knowingly or possession in wildlife violation cases, prohibiting certain hunting methods, for example, no hunting fur bearers within city limits or from a highway. So that was like stuff they tacked on that, you know, when they do bills, and I think that helped killed it. It was like too much like, why are you trying to fuck with all this stuff? Like, let's pick one thing. And then it's trying to reclassify definitions of words. And it felt like, to me, it feels like they're trying to get you on a technicality.
What was a definition of a word that they were trying to change? I didn't
get the exact definitions, but they were trying to clarify knowingly and like possession. So like, what defines you're in possession of a wolf, or what defines you're in possession of a coyote? Well, a coyote doesn't matter, or a beaver, right? But let me go on. So it does all that, clarifies, and then there's no trapping within city limits or highway, and then aligning the wolf tagging rules with those other fur bearers. And I kind of agreed with this part. It basically would turn wolves into the same thing we kind of do with bobcats and beavers and mountain lions, right? So it's kind of makes them a little more, they have to get tagged, and it's all kind of tracked. It stirred the debate, though, between those who wanted stricter wolf protections and those who wanted more aggressive wolf control. Because since it classified them as fur bearers, yes, it gave you this opportunity to manage them like fur bearers, but then the fur bearer regulations apply to the wolves. So there's no like scoping at night. There's no thermal. There's no, right? And then you beat your head against this big fucking thick dictionary because there's Fish and Game managing wolves as a population, and for conservation, right? And for enjoyment, people want to watch them, people want to hunt them. But when it comes to ranches, it's not about any of that. It's about protecting your cattle. So I don't give a fuck if the government's telling me I can't use a thermal. If it's killing my calves, I'm going to use a fucking thermal. right? Because at that point, I don't care about fair chase. I'm not trying to harvest this animal.
Right.
I'm just protecting my own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like you know, I live out of town. There's mountain lions around here. If I walked outside and a mountain lion had my dog and I had my thermal, I wouldn't be I can't use a thermal. I'd just let
If
lead
a
fly.
mountain lion had your dog, you go put the old full Nixon on him. I've heard the stories about how you choke out bears.
You're right. If I had my 50 cal thermal handgun on me, thermal scoped handgun.
My word, the ATF is knocking on your door right now.
But that's where I think a lot of this opposition came in. They're like, no, I don't want to classify wolves that way because at some point there needs to be some extermination of them. They butt heads with like people. They can't live
kind of
in
just
symbiosis.
Moved it into a gray area where sounds like neither side was really in that big a support.
Yes, and that's why I think it died. So supporters of the bill, Representative Jamie Isley, Isley, I think's how you say it, who was a sponsor of it, House District 58, kind of the Livingston area, just outside of Livingston and west, but not quite to Bozeman, so and north.
Bose Angeles,
exactly. Basically, this bill missed the deadline and died, is why it died. But yeah, like mountain lions, bobcats, it's mandatory pelt tagging. It was going to bring all that. It streamlined regulations for enforcement. It also sought to tighten up definitions to help wardens prosecute illegal hunting more effectively. Supporters emphasized the bill would still maintain wolf hunting and trapping. It was ending these activities at all. In fact, it would put in place specific protections for gray wolves. So it was like protecting gray wolves in one sense and, opening up kind of hunting on them in another sense, right? So it was like, who wants to support it? Another supportive argument by clarifying laws, what counts as baiting, right? So baiting wolves and stuff, like all this kind of circulates with fur bearers, and like as soon as you classify them as a fur bearer, it's like, oh shit,
right?
So that's kind of the. Are you good with the people that wanted it? The support, was I clear enough on there? Should I clarify some more things? You have any questions?
No, I think you did a good job kind of explaining. It just doesn't seem like there's much substance to the bill. I understand the idea of moving wolves to fur bearers, but it just didn't seem like there was...
Seems like a lot of work for no payoff, really.
Not a huge change.
Yeah. Yep. So the opponents, it's kind of the same stuff we were saying. A lot of landowners were like, it's going to reduce our ability to manage wolves. Same thing, thermal scopes, stuff like that. Ranchers see wolves as a unique challenge. They're not like bobcats. They're not like mountain lions. They're not like mink, right? A pack of wolves can decimate your herd.
I don't know. A pack of mink could probably do some work on some rats.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why they didn't want them grouped in with them. It also kind of removes or weakens the aggressive tactics you could go after wolves with. And to be honest, like we talk about elk, everybody loves elk, but who is kind of the hidden, I don't know why I can't think of the name of it. The hidden victim of wolves is the moose. Moose are decimated by wolves, and the amount of moose on the Idaho-Montana border are so declined because it's hard to get into those areas to hunt wolves, and in the backcountry, they're decimating the moose. They are. And nobody can hunt them back there because nobody does. It goes back to that earlier bill with the wildlife areas. Right. It's like, it's so much effort just to get back there that nobody does. Nobody manages them. So I'm not saying we got to get rid of wolves, but they are a predator that's constantly going to need to be managed tightly.
Right. Well, especially if we like the ungulates, right?
Yes.
Because for so long they were removed from the landscape, so we've, as humans, come accustomed to the higher level of ungulates, deer, elk, moose, all that. So now
ungulates, ungulates, yes, ungulates.
So
I didn't go to school for it.
Yeah, so. I probably said it wrong. Like scop in season 1.
What is it supposed to be?
No, that's what it's supposed to be instead of scallop.
Did we,
ducks.
did
Yeah.
we say him
It
scallop?
was, I think it was way
We
wrong.
are fucking hillbillies.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I forgot what I was saying now. Oh,
About-
we've become accustomed to the higher numbers. So now that we've introduced an apex predator, there's going to be conflict because you can't have both. You can't
Agreed.
have wolves on the landscape and record number of resident and non-resident hunters because they're competing for the same resource.
Agreed. Totally agreed. Yeah, so that's pretty much it on that one. Again, it died. It might have been nice to do this episode 2 weeks ago when
Yeah.
these were all still alive, but it died.
Don't waste people's time.
So at least they're trying stuff with wolves. This wasn't good or bad. It was like, man, I think that's why it didn't pass.
Next up is
House Bill 907. Do you want to talk about this one? You know, this is a long one. This is like, I have like pages and pages on this one. Why don't you take it away?
if you got pages and pages, I mean, I can't compete with that. I got like half a page here.
Have notes? Okay. House Bill 907 is balancing hunting license and public access. All right. So what this proposes to do is change how Montana's handle non-resident hunting licenses. Shocker. Especially out-of-state landowners. Back in 23, a law was passed that essentially gave an automatic deer and elk license to any non-resident who owned a lot of Montana land. Many local hunters saw this as unfair landowner perk. HB House Bill 907 is basically a do-over. It repeals the special license giveaway and replaces it with a different reward system. Under 907, if an out-of-state landowner opens their property to public hunting, for example, by joining block management program, they won't get a free license outright, but they can purchase an extra bonus point to improve their odds in future license drawings. What do you think about that?
Hell yeah. I think specifically to non-residents, if you don't even live in the state, I don't think you should just use Montana as your playground because you have a special ranch here that you get a tag every year.
Yeah,
Put it in the drawing system like everybody else.
agreed. Because you made your millions downloading illegal music off of LimeWire
LimeWire
in the 90s. Yeah, you shouldn't be able to do it. So this is a good one. Thumbs up on this one.
We talked about that. That was at 87-714 that it appealed. That basically they're like, oh, well, give non-residents a tag if they have this land, and that will do this. You know, it will. I don't even know really what the thought behind it was to get that passed initially, but no, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Getting the drawing like everybody else. Just
Pay to
'cause
play. I'm a rich landowner. Well, and I
That
say rich,
doesn't
but
live
I'm
here.
a landowner that may not live here.
it's non-resident.
Oh, you're correct. It's non-resident
Yeah.
landowner. Yeah.
If you live here, you pay taxes. I don't mind giving you a break, but you don't even live here, and you're just going to use Montana as your special playground. Fuck off.
Go fuck yourself.
We need a button.
Exactly. So it also raised the standard non-resident bonus point from 20 to 25.
Yeah, we're breaking the bank there. And then another thing that it did is it actually specified where the funds that non-resident tags goes generates. So do you have that, or do you want me to break it down?
I don't have that. You can break it down.
All right. So it says that 25% of the funds generated from non-resident tags goes to public
Yeah, I got it right here.
access establishment, right?
Okay.
Which is like 25% of this is going to go to getting more public access.
It could go to that block management program that's allowing people to cross land
Well,
to get the landlocked
so
areas.
25 goes to public access establishment. Another 25% goes to hunting access program. So that's like the block management program.
All right.
So you could almost double dip in there where you're having all this non-resident money coming in, but that money's directly going to public access. And then it also allowed 25% to go to future fisheries, with priority of fisheries that open up public access. And then another 25% of funding to go to permanent easements through private property. So it's basically taking this non-resident money, taking all their money and putting it in programs that includes public access. So who benefits from that is fucking everybody.
Everybody. Why would you vote this down?
Right. Everybody.
Exactly.
And it did say that 10% of their overall cost could be spent administratively with FWP to implement these things, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But what a freaking huge win for this. I mean, you're taking out-of-state money and you're putting it back in a program that increases public for everyone. I mean,
this is a good one.
Yeah, I want to hug somebody.
Good. Well, as of today, it's alive and moving through the legislature. It was introduced in late March, and on April 5th, the House passed it with 74 yeses, 24 noes. So that's pretty good. Every Democrat in the House backed it, which is
good.
And a good number of Republicans. So 24 Republicans voted no, though. Why would they vote no? Because they're bought out.
Yeah, motherfucking
fucking greedy pieces of shit.
But previously that the money that non-resident goes into the FWP state special revenue fund. With this bill, it actually specifies you're spending this.
If you're going to sell us out to non-resident fucking landowners, then you're going to at least use that money to improve the public's access to the public resources.
Yeah. You know, as a Montanan, that's something I can get behind.
Yep.
And the tags we're talking about are the B10, B11 tags, which basically it says that 75% is awarded to applicants with the highest number of bonus points, and then 25% is awarded to applicants without any bonus points.
First time.
Yep. So even as a non-resident, you still have that opportunity to get those special tags.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have a whole section on why to back it. I think we covered it. Let me go over the opponents' viewpoints. All right.
Let's get into it.
Let's hear from these 24 piece of shit Republicans that voted no. So the critics include some lawmakers and landowner advocates. Go figure. Many of them aligned with the original 23 license programs, who feel that the status quo was actually working or that the bill goes too far in the other direction. They argue that the 2023 law, it was House Bill 635 from last session, had just started to yield benefits, and that throwing it out only after one season is premature. For context, under the 2023 program, non-resident landowners owning at least 2,500 acres, so it is a rich man game. It's not even the guy who can afford a few acres.
Right.
We're allowed to buy deer and elk combination license without going through the normal drawing, but with strict conditions attached. Those landowner tags weren't an unlimited free-for-all. A landowner could get at most one combo per 25 acres, up to a few per family, and had to pay full price for it and could only use it to hunt on their own property.
Oh, you had to pay for a price? Fuck off. Jesus.
In other words, opponents stressed that the old system wasn't giving away licenses for use all over public land to simply let landowners harvest animals on their own land, presumably animals their land habitat supports. Critics also point out to some early positive results from the 2023 program. In the first year of the landowner preference system, about 131 non-resident landowners obtained combo licenses through the program. I don't think that's a success, or not a success. The fraction of those landowners did reciprocate by opening their ranches to the public.
Yeah, I think it said 30.
30 of 131.
Is that what you have too? Yeah. So it's like, oh yeah, it opened up so much. Yeah. It opened up 30 and 191. What percentage of that is?
It said 75,000 acres of private land
was open.
Yeah.
It's to 30.
Yeah. So, but also understand that roughly 30 of those properties made up 75,000 acres. So like, what the fuck?
Right.
And they're getting a tag every 2,500 acres.
Yeah. Fuck off.
Yeah. Fuck off. And that's improved. The incentive was working. I don't think so.
No.
I don't see that as working. They worry that HB 907 repeals the program entirely. Those landowners might have little reason to keep letting people hunt on their land. Well, they don't get tags if they don't let people hunt, right?
Yeah,
okay,
right.
So,
right,
like, yeah, it takes the biggest incentive and says, if you don't want to let people hunt, then you don't get fucking shit.
Instead of here's a carrot every year.
Yeah,
Here's a little bit of a stick.
Yep. We finally got some of those folks to open their gates, and now they're taking away the reason for doing so. No, we're giving them a reason to open their gates.
Right.
Before, it was just the kindness of their hearts. Now there's like incentive to it.
Right.
Like, hey, honey, or hey, little kid. I'm tired.
Hey, little kid.
Hey, Harlow, would
Whoa.
you take out the trash? I don't want to take out the trash. Well, we'll pay you an allowance of $2 a week if you take out the trash. Okay. You know, give a little, get a little. Not
Right.
just like,
We'll
I'm going to give you
you
$2, and then
Yeah.
if you kindly would take out the trash, if you would.
And then hopefully, like, there's other programs like the 454. That's the one quoted as Bulls for Billionaires that allows landowners to get tags if they allow public hunting, right? Not just a guaranteed tag to a non-resident. All right.
I don't need to go through the 9 pages. This is pretty in-depth. This could be a whole fucking episode on it. But, yeah, it's... So, basically, this bill, it's not just a little tweak. I mean, it really overhauls the system. And I'm for it. I think it would be... It's more aligned with Montana's principles.
Right.
You know, true principles, not the Yellowstone watching out of state motherfuckers trying to sell this per inch.
Sell it down the river.
Yep. So that's House Bill 907. Good one. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Yep.
Support that.
If you have one of those Republican representatives or senators that voted against it, then give them a call and say, hey, quit being a Yellowstone watching fucking greedy bitch ass dude. Learn how to be a Montanan.
And next we have...
This one is kind of good. So this is, before I name it, this is kind of, I did this towards the end. I got one more after this and we'll be done, guys. Senate Joint Resolution 17. Fuck, I was going to talk about before I named it. Getting tired. My throat's getting raspy.
Yeah, I'm out of water.
So am I.
We're raw dogging it.
We're raw dogging it.
For you
Rookie
guys.
move.
Make sure you subscribe.
Yeah. Anyways, this is kind of a culmination of everything we've thrown on the floor tonight. Okay. This is basically, you have our point of view where we're like, hey, we hate non-resident hunters. I shouldn't say hate them.
No.
It sucks to be overrun by non-resident hunters, and that's what we're experiencing.
Right.
Okay. Maybe we're the only two experiencing that, but I doubt it. Because I've talked to other people that are residents that are like, the easiest way I can get a conversation going at work is I can go like, dang, this year I was deer hunting and there was fucking Washington guys all over my spot. And I say that once in the break room, and 3 or 4 guys are like, fuck, I know I was running and blah, blah. So I know I'm not the only one.
You're right.
Right? And it seems like Helena, Fish, Wildlife, and Parks haven't got that message that, like, residents are getting sick of this non-resident bullshit. All right? So if you were in control and there's a lot of negative emotion amongst your residents with these non-residents, what would you do?
Well, the first thing
you were a governing body,
first thing you do is you need to establish what your people are feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a government official, your job is to take care of the state and the state resources,
not the illegals, not the non-residents.
Okay. So first step, I would be understanding your problem, understanding what's going on, what's the general consensus, and then from there make policies based on what you
and
find.
How would you go about studying that? How would you go about finding out what your residents wanted or what their pain points were?
Survey. It would have to be survey.
Survey, a study. You're right. You talk to people,
right?
Collect data.
That's basic, right? Because
I'm glad you said that.
Clearly, something's amiss.
Something is amiss.
So go ahead.
Senate Joint Resolution 17, SJ Solution Resolution 17.
Solution Resolution
I'm about ready to
17.
fall asleep.
Let's go.
All right.
I'm out of
This
water.
was an attempt to formally study a growing social issue in Montana's hunting community. Are Montana hunters finding their public lands too crowded? And are non-resident hunters part of the problem? The resolution would have set up an interim study to delve into resident hunter satisfaction, especially regarding the influx of out-of-state hunters in Montana. SJ17 asked Legislative Council to assign a committee to investigate things like non-resident license numbers, crowding in hunting areas, and potential solutions to improve resident hunting experience. A study bill, it wouldn't change laws directly, but could recommend actions for the next session. Despite passing the initial Senate vote, it ultimately failed on a 25-25 tied vote on the third reading.
Oh, you dirty bitch.
April 1st. What a fucking dirty bitch. You know what I mean? That's Republican votes.
Yep.
That's fucking Republican votes voting that down.
It's not changing law. It's just doing a study.
It just said, hey,
let's look at how Montana's feeling.
Let's look at what the fuck you guys are doing and how the residents actually feel about it.
Yeah.
The people that are out in the field the most. I'm not saying there's nobody hunts more than me, but I would say we're in the top 10% in probably the fucking state for an unpaid. If you're an outfitter, you're disqualified.
Right.
But for an average Joe, we hit it almost every fucking weekend.
We're above average Joes.
We're above average Joes, I would say, getting out into it. So just coming from the type of shit we see, it's like,
well, why wouldn't you?
Why did this get shot down?
And it was a split decision, right? 25-25. So that tells you that, like, there are people behind this, but there are people that are like...
Is there 24 Republicans or Democrats in the Senate? I'd have to check on it, but I bet it was Democrat, Republican. You know,
people.
Yeah.
I'm not all into, like, lovey-dovey, getting to your feelings shit. But I am on this. I'll give someone an earful on my opinion on that.
Well, give me an earful.
Let's check in with the average Montana guy who goes out and let's see what he's feeling about this. Like, why not gather opinion from the public? I just don't see the point in shooting that down. Like, if Montana has so much to fucking do, they can't do that. I don't quite get it.
All right. Do you want to go to the opponents? Because we're obviously supporters.
Yeah, let's go to the opponents.
This might shock you. The strongest pushback came from those representing the outfitting industry and rural businesses.
Oh, I'm fucking shocked.
Fucking shocked. That's why, fuck outfitters, right? Like, God dang it. We have some friends that are outfitters. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. They're nice guys. But the outfitting fucking industry shot this down. Well, they didn't shoot it down, but they're in, the ears of our representatives. And rural businesses. I get the rural businesses, right?
You have a bunch of money coming in. We don't want to.
Yes and no. Why oppose it if it's not changing any laws? Are you afraid it's going to show some shit?
It's going to open up the fucking door.
It's going to open the can of worms that says you guys are going fucking crazy with non-resident hunters and residents are fucking sick of it and you have to do something because your job is to be for the Montana residents. Not for non-residents.
Right.
And they didn't want to flip that fucking rock over and have to deal with it.
Exactly.
Right?
Like, what's the harm in knowing more information? I don't see that.
It baffles me. So let's read this.
But that's something that we talked about starting this podcast. It's like no one's the voice for us that are fucking sick of it.
No one.
Here's a fucking bill that's going to say, I think people are sick of it. Let's actually study it. See if people are. And they fucking shot it down.
Yeah. I'll go through it.
All right.
Montana Outfitters and Guides Association, MOGA. We've talked about them before. They were a part of shooting it down. Outfitters rely on non-resident clients for their livelihood. Don't give a fuck. Those clients buy the guided hunts, the lodge stays, etc. MOGA's executive director, Will Israel, testified, and while he carefully said outfitters support good data for decisions, he made it clear they'd oppose any outcome that means fewer non-resident licenses.
Duh.
Yeah. Still do the fucking study. Yeah. And who knows? Maybe I eat my words. They do the study and they're like, no one really cares.
Jared's just a whiny bitch.
Yeah. It's just like Jared Mason that fucking hates non-resident hunters. Not personally, just as a group.
Yeah.
Like it's very, what's it called when you when you don't judge somebody on their person, you judge them on the group they belong to.
Discrimination. Yeah, discriminatory.
Yeah, that's what I am.
Prejudice.
Yeah, like you could be my best friend, but if you're from out of state, I'm like, fuck you. All right. I'll go on. Anyways, in fact, Israel half-jokingly said he supported the study as long as it didn't lead to actual cuts, quipping, "Before I get jumped in the parking lot, we're absolutely 100% in support of a great data." But cautioning that they'd fight any resulting restrictions.
Yeah, so if the data doesn't go our way, we're going to fight it. Well, fucking duh.
And then Montana's like, all right, so why even do the study? Because maybe Montana knows they're like, yeah, we have a fucking problem.
Yeah.
But let's not put it in writing.
Let's not document it.
Then there could be a lawsuit. Like, we do a study, it says we need to change this, and we don't act on it.
Then you could sue.
Yeah, and say, hey, you fuckers. Data. Something. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Don't ask me.
Follow me for more legal advice.
They also argue that non-resident hunters are a boom to Montana. They pay high license fees, which they do. They fund FWP, which they do. They inject money into rural economies, which they do. You want to inject money into rural economies? Stop the American Prairie Reserve. All right, I'm back on topic. They do pay for motels, gas stations, restaurants, small towns rely on. But also, this is kind of contradictory because if you're worried about non-residents not getting their tags, the ones that are on guided hunts usually aren't paying for a fucking motel. They're usually at the fucking ranch that's outfitting
but still,
it still brings in money to rural towns. But those aren't mutually exclusive.
No, not at all.
It's like, if you want to bitch about fewer non-residents licensed, which I agree, they do inject money into rural economies. That's why I think motels, gas stations, restaurants should raise all their prices if you're non-residents. Double your prices for non-residents and have the number of people. Same amount of money.
Math.
Some also suggest that crowding may not be solved by cutting non-residents. Well, I want to meet whoever thinks that. And I want to go fucking hunting with them where I go hunting and see if the Washington fucks didn't show up, if it would be as crowded. Jesus, you dumb fucker.
Like, why not find out?
Montana's population is growing too, and more residents are out hunting than in past decades. Perhaps better management of hunting districts access is the key rather than blaming non-residents.
How about let's study it? Because that's a fucking hypothesis.
Hearsay.
Right.
Fucking that's what's gonna answer it for you, dumb
you
fuckers.
Shot it down because you were fucking afraid of what would come out.
Another layer. The State Wildlife Agency, FWP, did not come out strongly one way or the other in public, but they might have reservations about losing revenue.
Yeah.
Oh, come to follow the fucking money.
Yeah.
Huh?
Who would have thunk it?
If you cut a few thousand of those, non-resident tags, they cost about $1,000 a piece. The combo tags, you cut, a few of those, that's a chunk of change FWP's not getting. Here's what I see. Make them 2,000 and cut them in half.
Yeah.
Done.
Why not increase the value, not the number?
Increase the value. Look what Colorado did, right? No more over-the-counter non-resident tags.
Yep.
Without alternative funds, which might mean raising residence fees, never popular. I'm not totally opposed to paying more if it means less non-residents. Honest to God.
Yeah.
If I got to make up the difference, I mean, let's talk about what that difference is. But if I got to make up the difference, that's a conversation I'd like to have. Maybe with some fucking data that this would have given us.
Yeah.
This is these opponents right here is exactly why I don't like the FWP commission. It's the same type of fucking hearsay bullshit. They don't wait for the facts to come out. They just kind of say what they think their friends are saying or what's popular at the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Not really data driven.
Not data driven. Just, is it hearsay? What's it called when you just kind of make your decisions on gossip?
Gennardo.
No, that's making up facts that sound correct but aren't. Right here. In summary, those against SJ17 weren't necessarily against studying.
They were against the results.
Yeah, they were against the results that they know are there.
Yeah.
It's it's not fucking unknown that resident hunters don't like fucking outfitters.
Right.
For this fucking reason.
Right.
It's not strange that resident hunters don't like or like non-resident hunters, right? It's
But let's
well
not
known.
shine a flashlight on that. Let's just
Yeah.
bury that.
Fucking keep it under the rug.
Yeah.
The impetus behind the study is to reduce non-resident hunting opportunities, which they see as bad for business, possibly unnecessary. The tie vote in the Senate, with most Republicans against and some joining Democrats for it. So Republicans were against it, Democrats were for it, indicates the concern for Montana's economy and outfitting jobs weighed heavily against the residents of Montana. Let me say that again. The Montana's economy and outfitting jobs. Who gives a fuck about the outfitting industry? That's not like one of the biggest fucking things to hang your hat on in this state. Jesus Christ. Weighed heavily against listening to its people. Ugh, Jesus.
Fucking let's listen to the fucking people that live here.
Sentence not just greed driven right there the whole time?
I like that. Ools.
Didn't pass.
Yeah, fuck it. Just throw it on the floor. I don't want to see it again.
All right.
Hopefully next legislative session.
Yeah, get something on it. It's a festering wound. It's got to pop at some point.
Something's going to happen.
Yeah. Or maybe we have non-residents not wear orange and then just see what happens. Combine the bills.
Yeah, mega bill.
All right, last one. I saved this one for last because it affects us.
Okay.
It didn't affect us till this year.
All right.
I know. This is one I got right before we came in.
Okay.
House Bill 202 is a far less decisive bill focused on protecting fair chase hunting by banning the use of aircraft and drones to scout or hunt game. In plain terms, HB 202 tightens laws against using any aircraft, planes, helicopters, or unmanned drones to aid in hunting. Montana already had a law barring hunting on the same day one has flown to prevent people from spotting game in the air, landing, and immediately killing it or going after it. HB 202 extends that to 24-hour waiting period after flying in a private aircraft before you can hunt. So they had to say private because, like, if you were in an aircraft coming from Texas, flying back home, and you flew over where you're going to hunt the next day, so that's why that's in there. Before you can hunt. It also explicitly bans the use or even possession of unmanned aerial vehicles, drones, while hunting. Now, here's the issue I have with it. I understand why they'd want to ban the drones if people are trying to spot game with them and hunt. That's not fair chase. But let's look at us. What if I wanted to film some of the stuff we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm in possession of a drone, even though I'm not using it to hunt, you could see the footage, right? But how can you prove that, right? How could you prove that if I got a drone on me, I didn't use it to do something unfairly? Well, it's kind of the same thing as saying I trusted that you shot your game legally, right? So trust that I'm using a drone legally. So I don't quite like that, but I'll continue. It increases the penalties for violation of doing all that. Basically, it's an anti-tech, pro-ethics measure ensuring that hunting in Montana remains a ground pursuit, not something directed by eyes in the sky. The bill saw unanimous support in the House, 99-0, and is now in the Senate where no opposition is expected. As April 8th, it's in progress. So, that's the summary of it. What do you think about it?
I don't feel like it's going to affect the average everyday guy.
Nope.
The average everyday guy doesn't have access to a private aircraft. My fear is when it comes down to tracking an injured or supposedly dead animal with the drone. Where does that bill? It doesn't really specify.
Yep.
Because
some states drones are illegal to track wounded game because you can see where the other game is as well.
Right, which is a gray area, but as a hunter, you wound something, and you have that. I mean, I've experienced it.
I would totally use a thermal drone at night
to go try to find that animal.
So I can recover it.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with, like, you could even put something in that's like, you can't hunt in that area for the next 5 days if you use a drone. Like, I don't give a fuck if I'm using it to recover game.
Track or recover. Yeah.
And maybe it's something you got to apply for, like, hey, I wounded something, I want to fly a recovery drone.
Right, notify FWP
that I'm doing it. So this is a little too
blanket statement.
This goes back to FWP Commission. It's still kind of the same thing. It's a blanket statement. They're like, yeah, no drones. It's a bunch of old fuckers in there. That's at least what it looks like in my head. And they're like, we don't understand drones, and no, we're not going to have them. You should hunt on foot with bows and arrows you made from willows on the river and rocks you've chipped. Who uses steel to hunt? Fuck technology.
Lead.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel like it's really going to affect the average everyday guy. Increasing the fees for violation, I'm totally for that. You do legal shit, pay a ton of money. I don't give a shit. Part of being a good hunter and a good outdoorsman is following the regulations. I don't really see the difference. Right now, what does the law say the next day, and they want to change it to 24 hours?
Yeah, so technically, like, you could fly in at 8 o'clock at night and hunt the next morning.
Oh.
Right? So if you fly in now, it would change it to if you fly in at 8 o'clock, you don't get a hunt till 8 o'clock the next day. And so why I oppose this, it's going to pass. Fuck, nobody opposed it. Why I opposed it is I think it's not so much keeping people from scouting stuff in planes. I think it's making it harder for people to access landlocked areas. That's where I see it coming from. Mm-hmm. Like now, if we want to access a landlocked, like we flew in a plane this year, we landed in. We did it lawfully. If this were to change, that's another day you have to take off of work. You have to wait like a whole, and when you're weekend warriors like us, like you don't have that luxury. So this bill here is going to ruin any chance we have of ever going on a weekend. Like we could we could fly in Friday after work and then hunt and fly out Sunday. Now, if you fly in on Friday after work, you don't get a hunt till Sunday, and you're flying out Sunday.
So you can't
it totally kills.
Yeah,
it totally kills all that. So I don't like it at all for that reason.
It's such a small percentage of the population,
and that's why it's going to get through.
That have access. But even like going back to our episode where we talked to Rob, is aviation is such a small sliver of the community that they don't really have a big voice to say things. With this, though, if you're some rich guy, you're not gonna fly into these landlocked public sections, and you're worried about days, right? So this bill is really
no. But what if you hire somebody to fly in?
Yeah, it burns a day.
I'm not seeing it as so much the rich private guy with his own plane. I'm seeing it more as the average Joe's going, I have all this greed locking, what was it? 3 million acres of landlocked public land. Mm-hmm. I can get to it by plane.
You can get to a fraction of that because there's requirements with landing a plane.
Yes, you can get to, and there's like physical requirements too. You can't land a plane everywhere. So I can get to some of that landlocked area through a plane. Now they just made it extra hard for me. They added a layer on it. I'm not for this bill at all. I think it's the drone thing. I think is wounded animals is one thing. I also think for us trying to create some content, like I'm not out there spotting game. I'm there just like with a drone following me to get some cool aerial footage while we hike. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I could pay a fucking helicopter to come up there and film out the helicopter. But it's like, an average Joe can't do that, afford that.
I understand the reasoning behind this bill because it sounds good. But I think as far as like impact, it's really not going to affect that many people other than people that are crunched for days, people that are like limited on their, the average Joes that have the opportunity to take an aircraft. To someplace, So, and then the whole drone thing with that,
just blatant no drone on you while hunting.
Fuck that.
Dumb. Dumb.
Go pose that one.
Thumbs down. It's gonna pass. That's too bad. But we got 1 year. How come this shit always happens to us?
It's us. We're cursed.
It is us.
We
get 1 year of like good shit, and then rules or something comes out. We had that elk hunting spot. We had it for a year. Never elk hunted before. Tried to hunt. It was a honey hole. Next year they sold it.
Yeah. It's because God wants us to be resilient. That's what it is.
That must be it. There might be a time. I just have a little bit written here that we already went over all of it. So What do you want to say about this legislative session with all these? And there's more bills, obviously. This, is,
Right.
but these are just the
ones
outdoor hunting / fishing cherry pick. Yep.
I'm excited to see, especially the more funding and more support for the block management program for that public access, that 907 that broke down the non-resident tags directly to public access. That in my mind, that's a huge win. I'm really concerned about the selling of public lands. You know, that makes me worry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mixed bag, this legislative section. There's things that are good that we talk about and things that were bad. So I can't really say either which way. But as the average guy in Montana, you know, I'm just an advocate for let's get out in the woods. Let's make sure everyone can enjoy it. And let's make sure it's managed in a way that's responsible, that resource is there.
Forever.
Let's
not lose that resource.
Yep.
So, well, that was it. That was season 2, dude.
Season 2 on the books. Off the books.
Off the books.
It was on the book. What do we learn?
Now it's off
what did we learn with season 2?
Probably the biggest thing I learned is communication when it comes to this outdoor stuff goes a long ways. Like talking to people about it, getting the issues out in front of people. Not just issues, getting favors out in front of people, asking people, you know, hey, would you mind if I do this? Or, you know, actually talking and meeting people goes so far in this. And the stuff we've been able to do in season 2, I just can't wait for season 3. I feel like incredible. It's a whole new world out there, right? I'm watching it slip away with our legislative sessions, but right now it's like it's a whole new world. Like if that plane one passes, and it sounds like it's going to, we already have trips planned on a plane that are going to have to change.
Yeah.
You know, and that sucks. So,
yeah.
But on a good note, season 3 is coming around the corner. I'm pretty excited. Spring turkey is what, next weekend? Weekend after that? Coming up?
Tuesday.
Spring bear is also coming up, but it seems way too snowy. I drove by the mountains I normally hike. Way too deep right now to get up in there. So, but yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty pumped. We got reviews videos coming out. I would like to do a little plug at the end here. We've worn these hoodies for quite a few episodes since receiving them, and it is probably my favorite hoodie to wear. I think at first we wore them because they look cool, and now this is what I was wearing this day. I showed up and we record, so
it's the go-to mountain 2-pocket hoodie by Vormy.
Yeah, so check that out for sure. Check that out for sure. Well, do you have any final words to say on season 2?
Glad we made it through season 2. Can't wait for season 3. Be sure to check us out on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube.
Anywhere you find podcasts. Yeah.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, FM.
Yep. Give us a follow. Give us a like. That really helps us. And we'll catch you next season. We'll be
surviving the week.
That was bad. I can't end that way. That was too choppy.
Okay.
So, yeah. Check us out. Look at all that stuff. Like Garrett said. We'll be excited to see you guys for season 3. And in the meantime, we'll be surviving the week to live on the weekends.